Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's look at some alternatives to using pie charts in numbers. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon to read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So I did a recent video showing how pie charts are a great way to represent a simple set of numbers. But if you find yourself using pie charts a lot, there are some alternatives. Here I've got a simple table of numbers and I can select the whole table, and since it's just these numbers here that would be represented, I go to Chart and then Pie Chart and I've got my simple pie chart. It's very easy to create. But what if I wanted to do something a little different? I could, for instance, just create a simple bar chart or column chart. So for instance, let's create a column chart. When I create it, you can see each of these different columns represents a different numerical value here. All I need to do really is get rid of a lot of the extra stuff that the chart has. So under Format, Chart, I can turn off the legend for starters. I can also go to Axis here and I can turn off the value labels and do the same thing for the X-axis. And then I can also get rid of grid lines. So the Y-axis has some grid lines here. I can get rid of those, and here I can get rid of the access line. And now I've just got a simple set of bars. I could go in here and choose for category labels, auto fit category, and you can see each one is now nicely labeled. Let's bring this chart up here next to the data. And another way I can represent this is to actually have each bar be a different color. Now this is all represented as a series right now. So they're all blue because they're part of the same series. But if I click Edit Data References and go up to the dot here above the column, I can change from plot columns as a series to plot rows as a series. So when I do that, you can see now I've got each column is a different series, so each one gets its own color. Now the label here isn't as useful. I'll get rid of that. But if I now go to Series, I could set the value labels so I could have the source data in there, and I could even have it set to the middle so it's in the middle of each bar. So now I've got these bars here representing each one of the values. If I select this and then go to Chart and then change the chart type to 2D bar instead of column, you can see I've got the same thing but now with horizontal bars. Now another thing you could do is use a stacked bar or stacked column. So I'm going to select the table here again and I'm going to go to Chart and I'm going to select Stacked Bars here. Now when I do that, it's going to put each in its own bar because this column represents one series. But if instead I click Edit Data References and then click the dot at the top of the column and switch to Plot Rows as a series, you can see now that it's all just one bar with a different part of that bar representing each row. I'll click Done here because I'm done editing the data references, and let me move this next to it here. And let's alter it here by going to the axis here. Let's get rid of the axis line. Let's get rid of the labels. Let's switch to the other axis there and get rid of the grid lines there as well. And let's go to Chart and we can get rid of the legend here. And then we just have one more axis line here that actually has the value labels there. I'll get rid of that. So now we just have this bar here. I could shrink this down to make it look more useful. It kind of looks like the bar that Max used to show you storage. And if you change a value here, you can see how it's reflected there. Now if I go to Series here, I can change the value labels and I can have the numbers shown in there as well. And I could select, say, the middle to have them all there in the middle like that. Oh, and one last thing I want to show you, under Format Chart, there's rounded corners. And so you can round off the corners like that to make it look even more attractive. Another idea here is to use a radar chart. Go to Chart here and select Radar. And what this shows you here, we'll move it next to it, is that say B goes all the way to the end here. It's the largest value. D is the next largest value. You can see it there as a 7 as opposed to an 8. E is pretty small. So this gives you a sense of the size comparison for each one of these using a very different visual. And you have lots of things that you can do here. You can change the style to curved style. You can have it filled in or just a line or both. Change the background and do lots of stuff to customize a radar chart. Next I want to show you using a bubble chart. Now a bubble chart will put a dot at an X and Y location, and also the dot will have a different size. So what we want to do here is forget the X and Y location. We just want to use the bubble chart just to show circles of different sizes. Kind of like columns, but instead of a column there's a circle for each one and it's bigger for bigger values. To do that, one way is to have a series of values here where you have the X and Y and then the value. X, Y, and value. Set it up like this. You could just have 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0 and all of that, and then pull these values from some other table right here, the actual value for the size. I'm going to select this entire thing here and I'm going to go to Chart and say Bubble, and I'm going to get this, which isn't useful at all, but if I click Edit Data References and change to take away the Share X values first and then plot rows as a series, now you can see I get this series of dots here. So all that's left for me to do is to go through, get rid of the legend, go through all of the different axis settings here, get rid of the labels, get rid of the grid lines, and you end up with something like this. I could even select it, and then for the series I could go in and set the values like that and it will show the size, or I could have it show the series names in there instead. And it's strange that you have all this blank space here, but you can just ignore that and just put that where you want. And then notice as I change something, like maybe let's make this value much bigger, you can see how everything changes relative to it and you get an idea of which one of these is the largest, which is the smallest, just like with a pie chart. Now a pretty straightforward replacement for a pie chart is a donut chart. They're essentially the same, except of course a donut has a hole in the middle. So with the table selected, I'll create a donut chart here. And you can see how it looks a lot like a pie chart. And you can turn the legend on and off. You can go to the different segments, turn on and off the leader lines, and decide exactly what fits in to the slices there in the donut. You can also, under segments, change the inner radius so you can make it bigger or smaller. And one of the key reasons to use a donut chart is to actually put something in the middle, like a graphic or something that tells you a little bit about the data there. Now here's another idea that uses donut charts but in a special way. And I'm going to select this table here and I'm going to do Chart and create a donut chart. But instead of having this be the full circle, let's have it be half a circle. First let's customize this a bit. Let's get rid of the legend. For the segments here, let's get rid of the values and just have it be like this. Instead I'll include the data point names. I'll have no leader lines here. I'll just have it inside like that. And I can adjust where they are. So this is good, but what would be nice is to have half a circle instead of a full circle. Let's move this up here and next to it. And I'm going to create a new table that's just a single cell table. And I'm not going to leave this on the screen. I may actually hide it when I'm done. But the idea here is this value is going to be a sum formula and adding up all of the values here. So I've got all of these which add up to 33 and then the value of 33. Now I'm going to go back in here and edit data references and I'm going to click on this cell to add it. And you can see it's added this extra one right here. So let's go and click Done. And then I'm going to select this one here and I'm going to take away the data point names like that. I'm also going to go to Style and change it from Color Fill to No Fill. So now it's half a circle. All I need to do is go to Format Segments and there's a rotation angle. And I can set that to 90 degrees. And now it looks like this. So that's really handy. And you can even have this as, say, a multiple 3 times the amount. And now it's a quarter of this. And we would change the rotation here to be 45 degrees. And you've got something like that. Now one last alternative. And that's not to use a chart at all. If you add an extra column to this table here, I can add a formula to it using the REPT or repetition function. And I'm going to use a character. I'm just going to do a simple X, put it in quotes there like that. And then I'm going to assign it the value of the cell to the left. So now it's going to put 5 X's because that's a value 5. If I were to, instead of an X, go in here and let's say use an emoji. I'm going to look for a square. There are a bunch of square characters here. Let's choose this red square like that. Now you can see it gives me 5 red squares. I can copy and paste this here. Let's expand this column a bit and you can see that I get the number of squares for the number that's here on the left. So I get a little bar chart here that's embedded in the table. It's not a separate thing. You could even go in here and change format text and have it centered. So you have basically larger bars representing larger numbers. So you basically are just comparing the sizes of the bars. So I hope you learned some numbers charting techniques from this. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.